What's up everybody and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. And what do you know, they didn't screw this up, they got it right. Sort of. It's really weird because it seems like ages ago when I first saw the trailer for this film, and it was really highly anticipated. I absolutely fell in love with Alita Battle Angel back in 1993 when I was in high school and I first saw the OVA. It was incredible and really ushered in a new style of anime for the time. Very similar to now classic and iconic anime, such as Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Fist of the North Star, and Macross, Alita Battle Angel quickly became a must-own for my library. Now, several of the watershed animes from the late 80s and early 90s all had a very distinct theme, whether or not it was exploring the aftermath of world wars, holocausts, or dystopian societies, but most importantly, it was the brief flirtation with cybernetics and cybernetic organisms, self-awareness, and AI. I also have to mention that the cyberpunk element to it not only made it cool, but it made it very distinct for this time period. And of course, the burning question that we all have now is, how much of this film remained true to the original anime in 1993? Well, that's what we're here to answer. This is my official review of Alita Battle Angel. Let's take a closer look. So, I'm not going to leave you in suspense. This film gets so much right, and I have to admit it's pretty true to the original source material. In fact, apart from a few creative changes and some changes in the overall narrative, many of the scenes in this film are shot for shot of what we see in the original 1993 OVA. Now first I want to talk about the obvious, and we do have to talk about the CGI in this film, because for the most part it was good. Now I have to admit, at times the CGI in this film kind of took me out of it. There are many times when Alita looked so incredibly organic, and there were other times where she looked kind of funny and out of place. The lip syncing in this movie is done for the most part very well. It syncs up pretty good, but at times you can tell that it's a little bit out of step, and again, it takes you out of the environment and you really notice these things. Now I know I'm nitpicking just a little bit, but overall the CGI was pretty superb in this film. Now CGI aside, one of the most important things about any film is whether or not you believe the main character is organic or you can relate to her. And you certainly can here. I absolutely fell in love with this version of Alita. It was totally believable and I really cared and was invested in this character. Now overall, this film had a very impressive cast and some people that I didn't even realize were in the film. Rosa Salazar was fantastic as Alita, Christoph Waltz was great as Ito, even though I felt it was a missed opportunity with his character, and he didn't get as much screen time as we did in the OVA. Jennifer Connelly was great, and Mahershala Ali was fantastic in certain segments, otherwise he was kind of cut and paste in the movie. But there were other elements to this film that made him much more interesting. But let me go back to Christoph Waltz for just a moment, Dr. Dyson Ito. Now he's the character that I lament the most, because in the original OVA he's much more of a badass, and unfortunately they didn't really portray that in this film, and it was a missed opportunity, but you know, it is what it is. Now the cinematography and art direction in this film are absolutely stunningly beautiful. And I have to admit, the CGI components, especially with Alita, blended very well with the real-world effects. The world is very dirty and dingy and industrial, and you do get a sense that you are living 300 years after a massive cataclysm and a nuclear holocaust. Now one of the things that I really appreciated about this film that differed slightly from the OVA is the subtlety. Now, it's not trying to be self-righteous or too preachy about the world that they live in. Now, there are undertones about classism, the socio-economic strata, and definitely about a dystopian society run amok, but it's not constantly beating you over the head, and I thought that was pretty refreshing. Now, where they excelled in this film in terms of the overall narrative is telling the very personal story of an amnesia character that slowly begins to find out who she really is, and in that respect, they did a superb job here. And finally, another staple of this series, or the original OVA, is the fight sequence. And guys, I gotta tell you that this film does not disappoint. When Alita starts throwing down, I mean, she freaking throws down. And one of the things that I really appreciated about this film is the pacing. So you don't have this like build up to a huge fight. You have fights throughout the movie, which are incredibly entertaining, guys. The choreography here is awesome. And because most of it is CGI, and I have to admit, seamless CGI, a lot of the wonderful things that you see in animes in terms of the battles and the way that characters move are perfectly recreated in this film, and it was so freaking awesome. Now, one of the criticisms I had about the Ghost in the Shell feature film was that it was merely a shell of itself, that it didn't have any heart. And let's be honest, Ghost in the Shell did some things right, but it also lacked the depth and complexity of the original anime. Now, some asshole of course had to comment that I obviously didn't see the film because I didn't understand it. Well, here's my response to that. Please don't try to school me on anime. I've been watching anime since you weren't even a mistake in your mom's belly. And I recognize that a film has heart because it's actually in the film. There were some pretty gut-wrenching moments in this movie, very similar to the OVA. And the reason that it worked is because this character was a lot more true to the anime than the one in Ghost in the Shell. And here's the other thing about it, it would be totally unbelievable if it wasn't for the mannerisms and the emotion that poured out of this character. And that's why it worked. Given the fact that we're dealing with themes of cybernetic organisms, this film is surprisingly human. Overall, this movie worked on so many levels. Sure, it's not a perfect film, but it's very hard to translate the complexity of animes, especially in OVA form, into film form. But I think they did a pretty good job here. This movie is really cool, guys, and you're gonna have a great time, especially with the fight sequences. Holy shit, they're awesome. Now before I go, I just want to thank the folks over at F&B Collectibles Incorporated for sponsoring today's review. Alright everybody, so that's my official movie review of Alita: Battle Angel. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. Okay, I may have gone a little bit overboard with the whole before you were a bad idea in your mom's belly, but it's kinda true.
Evil.
She's threatening the natural order of things.
Tonight is not a game. It is a hunt. I need you to destroy the girl called Alita.
You made the biggest mistake of your life.
And what's that?
Underestimating who I am.